Hey there and welcome back to my channel. In today's van build series, you will see me installing two MaxxAir fans on the roof of my Ram ProMaster, both with and without a fan adapter. Before we begin the install process, I want to make a couple call outs. Number one being there are time codes in this video. So if you look at the timeline of this video, you can go ahead and jump around to different sections of this process if you want to jump over something I'm saying. And number two is in the description box below, I have linked the products and tools I use for this fan install. So be sure to check them out if you're interested in doing an installation yourself. To start, I want to share why I chose to do roof fans. So if you're here just for the installation process, feel free to jump ahead. But overall, ventilation is really important, especially in such a small space like a van. So how most people go about doing ventilation is with roof fans and windows that vent. When you're looking at your roof fan options, you're going to come across two main brands in the market, which is the MaxxAir fan that I chose and then the Fantastic fan. One very important thing to note is that roof fans do not create cold air. They are purely for ventilation. If you're looking to create cold air, you should definitely look into an AC unit. Keep in note, AC units are more expensive, take up more roof space, and have a high battery power charge, so it's going to draw a lot from your battery bank. Once you have decided to do the roof fan approach, you're going to want to consider how many fans you want. I chose two because I want one over in the back, over my bed when I'm sleeping, and then one in the front. So it's going to be near my shower and near my kitchen area to help with condensation and odor. The other thing to consider is if you do have two roof fans, that means it's going to take up more space on your roof that you could use for other things. The great thing for me about having two fans is that both my fans can pull air in and push air out. So I can have one fan pulling it in and the other one pushing it out, which is going to create a nice airflow throughout the van in conjunction with my venting windows in the back. These are the product and tools that you will need to do your MaxxAir fan install. To start, I got two MaxxAir Fan Deluxe, both the 5100 series. Then I have my Ram ProMaster fan adapter for the back fan to help it sit level on the ribs of the roof. I got butyl tape to help build it up underneath the fan flange, a measuring tape, screws to make the wooden frame, an Expo marker to trace my 14x14 template onto the roof so I know where to cut, a drill and drill bits, Rust-Oleum Stop Rust Clean Metal Primer, as well as the Rust-Oleum Stop Rust Protective Enamel to go on after the cut, and a foam wooden brush to put that on. We have painter's tape, then Scotch scoring pads to rough up the surface of the van before putting on the adapter, a metal file to clean up the edges after you cut the hole, a jigsaw that you're going to be using to cut the hole out of the roof of your van, as well as these Bosch T118B jigsaw blades that are meant to cut into metal. You're going to have liquid nails to do the wooden framing and install it on the inside of your van, window weld to help secure the fan adapter to the roof, lap sealant to put around the edges after the fan is installed to prevent any leaking, a caulking gun. You're going to have some C-clamps to hold the adapter in place while it dries, a Craig pocket hole jig to help with the wooden framing, and a saw to also cut the wood, and then safety glasses, of course. Then I have two 1x2x8 Windex for cleaning, microfiber cloth, a broom for cleaning as well, a vacuum, and a ladder to get up to the van. I would also recommend, if you can, finding a magnet to help pick up any loose metal shavings. So the MaxxAir fan comes with three pieces. The top piece is your actual fan itself. Flange. This is going to go on the roof of your van, and this is what you're screwing into the van. And then this is going to go on the inside of your van. So once your ceiling is up and everything, you're going to put this over the fan, and it's going to create a nice finish on the interior of your build. The fan also comes with screws and some connectors for your wires. The very first step of installing your MaxxAir fans is determining the location for the fans. You have to measure twice and cut once, because once there is a hole in your van, there is no taking that back. When determining location, you need to consider what else would be going on the roof, like solar panels, a roof rack, a sunlight, an AC, deck, storage units. You also need to think about the inside of the van. There are ribs running horizontally in the van that should not be removed or cut into. Also think about what cabinetry you will be installing to make sure the fans don't interfere. As you can see here, I am putting my solar panels on the roof along with the fans to finalize my location. Next, you will need to trace a 14 by 14 template on the roof of your van. Thankfully, I purchased the fan adapter, which is exactly those dimensions, so I used it in the front before installing it in the back. If you do not get the adapter, you can use a cardboard sheet that is provided with the fan to create a 14 by 14 template. When you cut out the template, I'd recommend using a straight edge. Once the adapter is where I wanted it, I taped it down and traced the inside with an expo marker because it is erasable, so it won't leave any marks on your van. Here I'm taking blue Scotch tape and putting it around the perimeter of my trace line to prevent scratching on my roof when cutting with a jigsaw blade and to provide a better visual when cutting. I also added painter's tape to the bottom of the jigsaw for added protection. Using the box the fans came in, I cut a hole larger than 14 by 14 and taped it inside where I'll be cutting to prevent metal shavings from going freely into my van. Also to throw tape in and to catch drips when I paint the edge. Make sure all doors and windows are shut so no wind comes in to disturb the box. Once you are back on the roof of your van, you're going to drill pilot holes in the corners. Be sure to start with a small drill bit and then work up to a larger one until you create a hole big enough for your jigsaw blade to fit in. When using the jigsaw, be sure to wear safety glasses the whole time. Metal shavings will fly in your face as you cut. Also, don't baby the trigger. If you go too slow, there is a chance the blade will skip around and you could possibly dent or scratch your roof. After cutting a side, apply tape to hold up that flap to prevent vibrating when cutting the rest of the sides. The other thing to keep in mind is that since you're taking this piece out, it's making the roof of your van really weak, so be careful moving around not to put dents in your van. So after you go ahead and cut your hole, you're going to want to check that your plastic flange for the fan fits correctly. Now there is no front or back to this, but the sides that have these metal pieces on them, there's 4 of them, they need to be at the length of your van, parallel sides of your van. So go ahead and put it in. Perfect. Fits like a glove. So if it fits really well, now the next thing you gotta do is take a metal file and clean up these edges just to make sure it's not too sharp. Now I'm gonna go ahead, remove this tape, and clean up all these metal shavings using a vacuum, a broom, and if you have a magnet, that's ideal. I don't, unfortunately, but you gotta clean up this as best as you can so that it doesn't rust. Okay, so once you have cleaned the roof free of metal shavings, it is time to apply a Rust-Oleum Stop Rust Clean Metal Primer to the cut you just made to your roof. This is going to prevent it from rusting down the road. So I'm going to use a foam brush to put this on. So I still have the box inside my van to catch the metal shavings. I'm going to keep it there again just to catch any drips or anything that might come from this painting process. While that is drying, I am now going to make a wooden frame to go on the inside of my van so that when I screw the fan down, it has something more to grab onto besides just that thin plastic flange and the thin roof. So I have 4 17-inch longs and 4 14.5-inch long pieces of 1 by 2 by 8. And then I went ahead and drilled the pocket holes with my Craig jig pocket hole into all the 14.5-inch boards on both ends. And right now I am just piecing them all together to make a square like this one to go and fit perfectly when that gets installed. Okay, now the primer that I put on is dry. I'm gonna go ahead and also put on a Rust-Oleum Stop Rust Protective Enamel. So to apply the wooden frame to the inside of the van, I'm using this liquid nails. While everything is drying for this front fan section, it's time for me to start doing everything again in the back section. But before going up to the roof, I just wanted to point out a few things I mentioned earlier about placement. You see these ribs on the roof right here. You have to be aware of these. You cannot really remove these. These are structural foundations for the roof, and you don't really want to drill into them either. Oh, yes. 2 for 2, baby, 2 for 2. And then as you can see in the box, I caught my metal pieces, tape, metal shards, so really handy to have, otherwise all of this would be on the floor of your van if you weren't careful. So for the back fan, again we're using this Ram ProMaster fan adapter. You can also get them for Transits and Sprinters. First we need to scuff up the perimeter so that the urethane to put this onto the roof. So this has something more to grip onto. It doesn't have to be too much, just enough to degloss it and put a little bit of scratches in your roof. Then go ahead and wipe down the surface. Now I'm going to apply some 3M window weld super fast urethane to the bottom of the roof adapter. You're going to want to do it with 3 lines going all the way around the perimeter. And an 1/8 inch bead. When installing, make sure the lips of the fan adapter are lined up with the ribs of the roof of the van. Do not push down all the way until you put the flange in. It is recommended to let the adapter dry for at least 24 hours before proceeding. So right now, I'm back in the front fan. I just put the flange in, and I'm going to go around and do some pre-drilling in all those holes just to make it easier once I do start drilling the fan in permanently. It's important to use a bit that is smaller than your screw size. If you use it too big, then your screws aren't going to have anything to clench onto. Okay, so now I have pre-drilled my holes. Now just go through on your roof and remove any new metal shavings that came from your pre-drilling. So the next step is laying your butyl tape on the bottom side of your flange. This is going to help seal your fan. So I will lay down a strip first and go like this. So once the butyl tape is on the flange, you're going to want to put it into the hole. Remember, there is no front and there is no back, but there are sides. The sides that have these metal pieces, there's 4 of them. They need to run parallel with your van, the length of your van. Then you can begin screwing your flange down to the roof through the butyl tape, the roof, and the wooden frame with the screws provided. So now we clean up the metal shavings and get that looking all good before we proceed. Okay, so after you get the flange on and into the van, you have to check and see if the fan fits. As a reminder, you have to open the fan manually with the black knob on the bottom, right there. To lock it, you push it in. To unlock it, you pull it out. When you install the fan, make sure these cords fall into your van. If they don't, you're gonna be screwed. The other thing to do is make sure that these clips are lifted up to the top part of the circle. The part that hangs over back here, that's facing the back of your van. So the next thing I'm going to do is seal my fan so this prevents leaking into the van when it rains or anything like that. So just putting a seal on it. I am using a Dicor lap sealant that is self-leveling. And the best way to do this is with welding strips, that kind of technique. You want to cover the screws and you also want to cover the edge onto the roof. Now, I probably went overboard, but I'm really paranoid about leaks, so I wanted to make sure it was really sealed.
Then I went back to the rear fan to finish installing it. One thing to note is if you are drilling into a fan adapter and a wooden frame, I did have to run to the store and get 8 by 1 3/4 inch screws so that it would screw all the way through. This is the next day after the Dicor has some time to dry.
In the bag that came with the fan with screws, you're going to have 4 flat white-headed screws. These are the ones you're going to be using to screw into the fan, 2 on each side. You're going to want to use a handheld screwdriver, not a drill. Don't tighten them all at once. Do them loosely first and then go around and tighten them. And remove the plastic. So after you've gone ahead and put the 4 screws in going around the fan, you will want to apply lap sealant to them as well, just to help seal it off. Now before applying this Dicor sealant on those 4 screws of the fan itself, I would definitely recommend going into your van, checking to make sure the wires fell, everything's fitting correctly, the third piece fits smoothly, before going ahead and sealing off those screws. And then the very last step of this process is checking your fans to see if they leak. So after you've given the Dicor sealant at least 24 hours to dry, you'll want to take a hose to the roof of your van, not only to clean it, but also to spray around the fans and see if any water leaks inside the van.
This third piece will be trimmed and installed after your sealing is done.
And with that, I now have 2 MaxxAir fans installed to the roof of my ProMaster. I hope you found this video helpful. Tune in to my next video where I'm going to be installing my windows. Until then, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.